We are back, and we are here with Dr. Paul Mazzeo. Thank you so much for joining us. You are a board-certified neurologist. You're also the medical director of the Beaufort Memorial Memory Center. I had to look at my notes because I sort of forgot. Oh, as we get older, correct?
Sometimes I forget as well,
I love
particularly
it.
as I'm getting older. But thank you for having me, Debbie.
I am very honored to talk with you because as I've done a little bit of research and talked with you, you have a very comprehensive practice. The Memory Center is something that is especially near and dear to you. I have a couple of questions that I think a lot of us would like to know. And one is, we're pretty clear that as we age, many of us lose aspects of our memory, dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that. I want to know about what's new in research, what's going on, what can we expect?
Sure. And, you know, Debbie, it's very interesting that there's been much more of a focus on how do we identify people who are destined to develop dementia as early as possible. So there may be people who have the disease in the brain but don't show any signs or symptoms. And where does that occur, and how do we target that population and intervene as early as possible to prevent impairment? Ultimately, we want to maintain our functionality, we want to maintain our independence, our ability to drive, our ability to live independently for as long as possible. Mm-hmm. And the best way to do that seems to be finding the people who are going to experience impairment later in life, early on, and intervene in a variety of ways.
What I hear you say is either prevention, education, and gaining more knowledge within this field.
Yes.
What does that look like right now from a neurology point of view?
Well, the current research is very focused on what is normal aging.
Okay.
So I often give lectures on how people age neurologically. Mm-hmm. And we would always tell people, for at least the 20 plus years that I've been in practice, mm-hmm. that at age 40 or so, you're expected to have some decline in your memory and some inability to multitask as well as we all do when we're younger.
Mm-hmm. Word search?
Certainly. Mm-hmm. Now, the question is, well, which of those folks are actually experiencing the very earliest signs of cognitive impairment that's pathological versus normal aging? So normal aging is a moving target. The problem we've had up until now is there's no real way to identify whether you're going to have Alzheimer's, you're going to have normal aging, you're going to have mild cognitive impairment. Mm-hmm. The only way to definitively diagnose a condition like Alzheimer's, which is the most common cause of dementia, would be to look at a piece of the brain under a microscope, and that's obviously not
going to happen.
Not going to happen for most people
right.
while they're living. So with advanced imaging techniques now, we can actually spot people very early on when they have minimal symptoms, and a lot of research is being done on supposedly normal people to see if they've, again, got the disease, even though they may not have the impairment that defines the dementia.
Is there a predisposition? Is there a genetic component? Is it about diet? Are there things that we can do practically to shift the likelihood that we will suffer something?
Sure. Yes to modifying your risk based on diet, based on exercise, and even based on our genetics.
Really?
So you would think that, well, if you're born with a certain genetic type that predisposes you to developing Alzheimer's, there's really nothing you can do about it. It's sort of like, well, I have blonde hair or blue eyes. How do you alter that? Well, not all genes behave that way. So in the case of Alzheimer's dementia, what we found is that if you adhere to a Mediterranean diet, for example, and you combine that with exercise, you can reduce your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease by about 2/3.
What? Oh my gosh. Okay.
Now,
That's pretty significant.
you might think, well, that's just the things that I'm putting in my body or the things that I'm doing. But those activities, those lifestyle modifications, actually change the way certain genes express themselves.
Is that like an epigenetic thing?
Yes.
Okay.
So, for example, the current theory, the leading theory on what causes Alzheimer's is the deposition of amyloid. It's a protein that forms the plaque in the brains of people with Alzheimer's and interferes with the ability of nerve cells to communicate with each other. So how do we reduce the production of amyloid plaque, and how do we keep it from depositing in the brain? Diet and exercise.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Mind, muscle, mouth, they all are interconnected. It's funny when I talk to physicians, and oftentimes that is exactly what I hear: move and eat healthy. Briefly, what does the Mediterranean diet look like?
It looks like a diet that's more emphasizing fish, less red meat, leafy green vegetables, kind of the antithesis of the Atkins diet.
Got it. It's very broad spectrum. It really is. You know, it's really interesting to talk with you. This has been just a sponsor segment, a quick segment, and we would love to talk to you again more in depth. It's a fascinating subject. Again, medical director of the Beaufort Memorial Memory Center, neurologist. Really interesting to interview. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
To reach the Beaufort Memorial Memory Center, call 843-707-8833.